מתקנין את הדרכים, we allowed to bathe in on the first of Adar, fixing the roads, ואת הרחובות, the streets, ואת מקוות המים, pools of water that get cement into it, ועושים כל צורכי הרבים, they doing all of the need of the רבים. אלו הן צורכי הרבים, what's the needs of the רבים to be done? דנים דיני ממונות, you judge the דינים of ממונות, ודיני נפשות, and דיני נפשות, people are supposed to die, דיני מכות, דינים of who get מכות, lashes, ופודין, you're allowed to redeem ערכים, if somebody said a value of somebody it's on me, you can redeem it, וחרמים, if somebody designates something for בית המקדש, not for קורבנות, והקדשות, you dedicated something to בית המקדש, ומשכין את הסוטה, you made the סוטה drink, if she is able to drink, משכין, ואיפה אנחנו? ושורפין את הפרה, you're burning the פרה אדומה, ועורפין עגלה ערופה, you do עגלה ערופה, ורוצין עבד עברי, you do the עבד עברי to pierce his nose, that if a dead body was found, the closest city will chop a head of a young cow, special ceremony as that. Not to be honest with you, I get it. Yeah, taking responsibility for his blood. ורוצים עבד עברי, they're going to pierce עבד עברי, ומתארין את המצורע, we do the process of the טהרה for מצורע, ומפרקים את המנעל מעל גבי האימום צריך לומר. You're allowed to release the shoe from its מה שתופס אותו, איך קוראים לזה? No, meaning they used to have those inside, those shapes of a shoe that they made the shoe at. So they used to release the shoe from its platform. There's a platform for shoes. So all these lists are allowed to be done on Chol HaMoed. What do you say?
Here it says taking the locks off of Meresh Shelamayim. Like they used to have for the water.
Okay. That's one of the pshatim over here. You're right. I have the in this Mishnah. It's reading in Masechet Moed Katan about Chol HaMoed. Over there it says the shoe. That's why it said. It said over here on the left side. It said from the Maim, but it said on the side Ayimum. So you're allowed to take all these lists, allowed to be done on Chol HaMoed. ואין מחזירים אותו. You're not allowed to return it back. All these lists allowed to be done in Chol HaMoed. Says the Gemara, Taman Tninan. We also said over there in the Mishnah in Moed, in Chol HaMoed, regarding Chol HaMoed, Mashkin Bet HaShlachin. Bet HaShlachin needs irrigated field or unirrigated field?
Water and irrigated field.
Irrigated field, yeah. So you're allowed to water irrigated field, which is fields that getting
Isn't an irrigated field already wet?
What?
An irrigated field is a wet water.
Irrigated field is what?
Irrigation is
Bet
wet.
HaShlachim,
Irrigation is the water.
So maybe there are no people talking about that.
We made water and irrigated field.
Okay, an irrigated field. In case it needs water, you're allowed to water it on Chol HaMoed. ומציימים על הקברות, you're allowed to mark the graves on Chol HaMoed. So all this was brought just for that sake, that you're allowed to mark the graves on Chol HaMoed. The Gemara question, לא כבר ציינו מאדר? Didn't they mark it already on the 1st of Adar, 45 at least days before? How come? How come it's if it's not Adar? How come it's if you already did it by Rosh Chodesh Adar? Why you doing it again on Chol HaMoed? The Gemara says ותיפטר, should be resolved, שירד גשם של גשמים ושטפו. Was a lot of rain, and that's wiped out the mark of the around the grave, and therefore they remarked it on Chol HaMoed. Next one. ויוצאים האף על הכליים. You said that you're allowed to go also. It said over there by Chol HaMoed, you're allowed to go on the כליים to take care of the כליים. וכמו אז לא כבר יצאו מהדר? Didn't they go out already from first Adar? How come they're doing it again on Chol HaMoed? And to the Gemara Tipater should be resolved, שהייתה שנה אפלה. The year was late. ואין הצמחים ניכרים. On the first of Adar, the plants weren't recognized well enough. So therefore, they needed to do it on Chol HaMoed. So we just explained that the reason we did in Chol HaMoed, the Chidush of the Mishnah, that third public needs allowed to be done in Chol HaMoed. And how come they did again marking graves because the rain washed it over? In the case of Kilaim, talking about there was no rain, so they didn't grow well, and therefore it was recognized way later in the spring, and therefore only in Chol HaMoed, even on Chol HaMoed it's mutar to take it out. Now the Gemara asks from here till the Mishnah, the next Mishnah, Minayin letziyun. How do you know that you're supposed to mark graves or anything tameh? So obviously the whole purpose of marking is for what? For people to know that this is tameh and to stay away from it. Rabbi Berachia, Rabbi Yaakov bar Bat Yaakov, Beshem Rabbi Chunia, Devarat Chivrin, Rabbi Yosa, Amri la Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, Beshem Chunia, Devarat Chorin, Rabbi Chizkiya. We don't know who said it. It's only bye. מי זה שמה? שלמה, Eli, can you close the door? בריידה בת חורין, רבי עוזיאל, בריידה רב חוניה דבי חיברן, בשם רבי חוניה דבי חיברן. Okay, all these רבנים. Yeah, that shows that everything had to be a source. You cannot make up stuff on your own. So whenever it says something, who. Okay, the pasuk says, וטמא טמא יקרא. Regarding Tumah, it says in the pasuk when somebody has a tzarat, has leprosy, he needs to tell everybody that he is טמא. למה? כדי שיהיה הטומאה קורא לך בפיה, you need the טומאה, the impurity should call you with his mouth, ואומרת לך פרוש, and telling you stay away. So when you mark something, as if the impure telling you, הלו גבר תיזהר, up to here, you're allowed to go. Rabbi Ila, another source for marking the graves, Rabbi Ila בשם רבי שמואל בר נחמן, the pasuk says, ועברו העוברים בארץ, people who were passing in the land. The Gemara will explain all the pasuk in details. וראה עצם איסו אבון, אדם, אמן, ובנה, he built אצלו ביים, ציון, it's a mark. The Gemara explain, עצם, מכאן שמציינים על העצמות. עצם, even though there is no, even though all of the flesh, all of the meat was decayed and only bones remains, it's still tameh. And even if a grave, only on grave of bones only, has to be marked. Adam, amen. וכאן שמציינים על השדרה ועל הגולגולת. Even if all of the body is not fully in place, just the spine and the head is there, and the remaining body is not there, it's considered as the main part of Adam, of a human being, and it needs to be marked as a grave. ובנה, and build, מכאן שמציינים על גבי אבן קבועה, on a permanent stone on top of a grave, you're supposed to mark. If it's temporary stone, you can mark it. למה? כי מחר the stone going to go away, and people are going to think that this is tameh. Well, it's not tameh. So only on a permanent stone on top of a grave, they're going to mark.
What if you just...
אם אתה אומר על גבי אבן תלושה, if you're going to say they're going to mark a stone that is not connected, אף היא הולכת ומטמא במקום אחר. People are going to think that this stone is going to move somewhere else. It's tameh when it was really tameh only above the grave. So you don't have not to have mistake. Only a permanent tomb, a permanent stone on top will mark as tameh, not a temporary one. אצלו, by him, למקום טהרה. It doesn't say אצלו, it's by him, not exactly on top of him. That means that you should keep a space from the area of tameh outside. So don't make exactly the tameh area, because when people arrive to the tameh area, it can become tameh already. Keep a gap in between, so even outside of the territory of the tameh area, you should be marked. Tziyun, a mark, mikan letziyun. You see that you're supposed to mark all those stuff to prevent people from becoming tameh. Yes, Yaakov?
When it talks about the bone, Like you're walking, you see a bone of a man. How are you supposed to know? Unless it's like the head.
עצם לא, yeah, you know. Man is, it is.
You know.
You should know, you know. Just spoke to ניסים שריקי. ניסים שריקי? היה השף שלנו, ניסים.
אוקיי.
So he works in Israel in פיקוד העורף. פיקוד העורף is an army, is מילואים. פיקוד העורף, they in charge of collecting bodies. That's his department. So he told me they just collecting pieces. And he told me a story that was a lady in Petah Tikva, over 90 years old, that a bomb exploded her house, not at this time, previous time. He said they couldn't find any real piece out of her body. And in order to determine she's dead, you gotta find a piece of her, something substantial of her. So he told the guys, let's look under the fridge. He says, no way. By the end that they couldn't find, they brought a special guy and he found her agan, איך אומרים? Or hip under the fridge. So that's why he told me that afterwards they went out to eat. So he told the guys, he was in Bet Shemesh, he was there. And he told the guys, one thing, לא ללכת לאכול שווארמה. You know why? All of the pieces burned meat to remind them shawarma. So he told me they took him dafka to shawarma. His friends. השם ירחם, it is. Okay, הוא מצא if he found, what did he found in order to mark? אבן אחת מצוינת, if he found one stone, it's considered as marked. אף על פי שאין מקיימים כן, even though if you want one portable stone, you're not supposed to mark. But if in case somebody found a stone, not permanent stone mark, so we assume there is tuma under it, and therefore, המאהיל עליה טמא. The one who was ohel, his body was on top of the stone, will be טמא. למה? אני אומר, I'm assuming, מת מצוין was a dead body over there. והיה נתון תחתיה was dead body under the stone, and that's why they marked it. So even though you shouldn't mark it, but if it was marked for one stone, you need to be careful what on top on the stone. היו שתיים, if there were two stones, המאהיל עליהן טהור. If somebody was מאהיל, his body was on top of the actual stones, טהור. למה? וביניהם טמא. In between it's טמא. We assume if there was tuma in between the two stones, they marked the whole area. So therefore, we assume that the tuma is in the middle. So above the two stones will be taho. No, above the two stones it's taho because the tuma is in the middle. So if his body was above the two stones, will be taho because the mark was tuma in the middle and was stones next to the tuma, so they marked the whole area. So therefore, we assume that the tuma is in between, and on top of the stones there is no tuma. So if it was on top of it, will be taho. אבל אם היה חורש בינתיים, if sea was plowed in between, then you know there is no grave in between the stones, then what's טמא? The stones. הרי הן כיחידויות. We treat those two stones as two individual stones. Therefore, ביניהם טהור, between them will be טהור. בסביבותיהם, and you have to say here, ועל גביהם, on top of them, will be טמא. Tani, we have a brighter who said, אין מציינים על הבשר. You mark only bones, but if a piece of meat was buried and a stone on top of it, you don't mark it. למה? שמא נתעכל הבשר, maybe the meat will be decayed and then it's not טמא. Rabbi Yosta bar Shunam asked by Kume in front of Rabbi Mana, ולא נמצא מטמא טהרות למפרע, isn't to find out that it will be מטמא טהרות retroactively, which means if you have a meat that was buried and you don't mark it and somebody was there and then afterward they told him, by the way, were you there? Meat was buried. Counted retroactively, anything that he touched becomes טמא, so why don't you mark it? And so the Gemara אמר לו, מוטב שיתקלקלו בו לשעה ואל יתקלקלו בו לעולם. It's better for him to be מתקלקל, to have mistakes. Okay, how long it takes for the meat to decay it? A week, 2 weeks? So it's better to take a chance that people will do mistakes within the 2 weeks if they were on top of it. They wouldn't know that they're tameh. Then from now on forever, everything will be considered as tameh, while nothing will be under it as the meat was decayed. Mishneh. In Yerushalmi, it's called halacha bet. הלכה ב' מתנית עם משנה. אומר רבי דבר ראשונה, the beginning היו עוקרין ומשליכים לפניהם. I'm talking about כליים. So we said, the first of Adar משמיעים על הכליים. יותר פיבונת אוהב כליים. So at the beginning, what they used to do בית-דין, they used to come, יאללה, anybody has כליים in the field, מוציאים וזורקים. אומרת הגמרא,
What is כליים in English?
a mixture between the two growth, the two items that cannot be together. So when you have wool and linen, it's called also kilayim, but really we use the word shatnes for it. The Torah uses the word kilayim, but the terminology of kilayim in Torah and Allah are being used for two types of plant that not allowed to be planted together.
Like
Some of them are
forbidden
from,
combination.
so from the Torah it's seeds of grapes and seeds of wheat from the Torah, and from Chachamim other types of seeds not allowed to be done together. So Chachamim inspect it. So on the first of Adar, they go over, and anybody who sees kilayim, it's about to be kilayim because it was at the beginning of the growth, they uproot it and they throw it in their field. The Gemara said, "Misherabu ovrei avera." People said, "Yalla, free service. They didn't come on the first of Adar. Take out the kill, throw it in my field. Why do I need to do it myself? If being sponsored by but the rabbis, therefore, היו משליכים לדרכים. They used to throw to the whatever they uproot, they throw it to the street, so people are going to eat what they uproot. So it didn't go to the landowner, rather it went to the public. So that to hurt. The Gemara, the Hashim says, and even though we're going to see soon, even though they said, okay, worth it for me, that this is going to go to the people, and the labor will be done by Beis-Din. So even though I'm losing what Beis-Din took out, I'm still gaining the labor. Therefore the Gemara says, התקינו שיהיו מפקירים את כל השדה. They made a takana that to be מפקיר, the whole שדה will be הפקר. So anybody who has כליים, רבו ישי, הפקר, טום, 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 the whole השדה, כולם מי שרוצה מכות, and they eat from the שדה. Omar Rabida. Now we see the evolution of the Kilaim approach of Beis Din. Tani, Omar Rabida. בראשונה, at the beginning, היו עוקרים ומשליכים לפניהם. They used to uproot the bad growth and throw it in front of them, in front of the owners. והיו שמחים שתי שמחות, they were happy twice. אחת, free labor. שהיו מנקשים את שדותיהם, they used to clean their fields. ואחת, שהיו נהנים מן הכליים, now they enjoyed whatever was uprooted, they were able to eat. ושרבו עברה עבורה, they saw that people do עברה, they enjoyed the service, היו משליכים על הדרכים. They used to throw it to the streets, to make it הפקר to the people. אף על פי כן, היו שמחים, they were still happy. שהיו מנחשים שדותיהם, they still got free labor that worth more than the actual growth. התקינו שיהיו מפקירים כל השדה כולה. They made a תקנה that all of the שדה it's הפקר. So if you didn't do it yourself, אתה אכל אותה. אין לך שדה. Now, the Gemara asks, מניין שהפקר בית-דין הפקר. How do we know הפקר Yaakov is to make something owned without any ownership? So if I said, my sidur is הפקר in front of 3 people, that's it. So I'm not an owner anymore to the sidur, so anybody want to take it can take it. So who can make you belonging hefker, which you're not an owner anymore? You, the only one who can make it. Here we see that the Beit Din made the whole sadeh hefker. So how do we know that the Beit Din has the power, the ability to make a property of somebody else hefker? That's going to be the end till the end of the page for today. מניין שהפקר בית דין הפקר, דכתיב, it says, בכל אשר לא יבואו, זה שם בדברי הימים, נכון? איפה זה? בעזרא. עזרא was requesting everybody to come together before they were going to Eretz Israel. So he said, anybody who's not going to come to the gathering, וכל אשר לא יבוא בשלושת הימים, for the 3-day gathering, בעצת השרים that was already advised by the ministers והזקנים and the elders, יחרם כל רכושו, all of all of his assets will be confiscated, והוא ייבדל מקהל הגולה, and he will be separated from the congregation of the exile, meaning he's not going to be part of the congregation. So basically, they take somebody else's asset and they confiscate it. How can you take it, man? You're not an owner. That means that Beit Din has the power to make something הפקר. The Gemara says, מניין שהיא פטורה מן המעשרות. How do we know that the hefker, we know anytime, any sadeh that has an owner, chayav במעשר. Sadeh that has no ownership, patur from the מעשרות. So this field that had kilaim, before it had owner, right? So will be chayav in מעשרות. When Beit Din made it hefker, they uproot a mitzvah of the Torah of the field to give maaser, and they said no more maaserot. So how do we know the Beit Din has the power to take out the mitzvah of maaserot by declaring hefker? Then it's not anymore chayav in maaser. מניין שהיא פטורה מן המעשרות, רבי יונתן ברי דרבי יצחק ברכה, רבי יונתן, לא אתה, כאילו, אחד, יוני. רבי יונתן, בזאת השם אתה גם, ברי דרבי יצחק, that, not the son of רבי יצחק, ברכה, son of ברכה, שם עלה מהדה, he heard it from the following. אין מעברים את השנה, you're not allowed to make a leap year. מה זה leap year? יעקב, remember we spoke? If, in order to maintain Pesach to be always on the summer, it must be done, because our year missing about 13 days. Every year we have 13 days less. I was in Eretz Israel, a month ago was it? And it was during the Ramadan. The Ramadan is the Arabic month that they don't eat. And it changed every year, it goes 3 days earlier than last year. So sometime Ramadan it's on the winter, and sometime it's on the summer. Okay, they go by the moon. The only thing is we adding the differences of the 13 days and the change.
Every 3 years we have that.
Yeah, they don't add it. So, Ramadan. By the way, they go by Shkia, not by Tzedek Kochavim.
All the time?
They were eating by Shkia already. We Machmir Tzedek Kochavim, then we have Rabbeinu Tam. They have Rabbeinu Muhammad, Rabbeinu Mustafa. No, יש להם. So, in order to maintain Pesach to be on the spring, you must add every 2-3 years, 4 years depends. We're adding 1 more year because you're missing 13 days every year. 1 month, yeah, 1 month in order to preserve it. So it's called לעבר את השנה, to make a leap year. So אין מעברים את השנה, you're not allowed to make a leap year, לא בשביעית, not by the year of the שביעית, the 7th year that everything is הפקר. And the Gemara will explain why, ולא במוצאי שביעית. Not by the 8th year, the following year of שביעית, you're not allowed to make a leap year. Now, ואם היא ברורה, הרי זו מעוברת. If they did it already, too bad. בסדר, it's called מעוברת. The Gemara asks, so that means they shouldn't do it. But if they did it, then it's okay. It comes out, וחודש אחד שהוא מוסיף לא פטור ממעשרות. When you add 1 more month to the Shvi'it, what is this month coding when you make a leap year? Because during the Shvi'it, you are patur year-round for Maaser for 12 months. If Chachamim would add 1 more month in the month of Shvi'it, you have 1 more month of patur mi-Maaserot. So you see that Chachamim has the power to make something patur for Maaser. The Gemara said, Hu ad kadun Shvi'it. I understand why Shvi'it Chachamim doesn't want to add. Must speak that you have 12 months that you don't own your field. Adding 1 more year, haram. So therefore we understand. Motzei Shvi'it, mai. What's the reason in Motzei Shvi'it that you are allowed? What Motzei Shvi'it that you're not allowed to make the following year 1 more month? מה אכפת לך? אמר רבי בון שלא לרבות באיסור חדש. Not to have much איסור חדש. We know that everything that grew from the beginning of the Jewish year, from the Rosh Hashanah, it's called Chadash. And until Pesach, you're not allowed to eat the... Yeah, that's why you eat Kemach Yoshon, Kemach Chadash. So, מה קורה? When the 8th year followed of the 7th year, they have no food from the 7th year because everything was Efker. So the 8th year is just waiting for the moment to have their own grain. And if you're adding 1 more month, you are extending the prohibition of Chadash and they're going to have lack of food. So therefore, the following year of Shvi'it, since there is lack of food, you don't push it one more month to prohibit chadash that you're not allowed to eat the new grain. Rather, you're not allowed to have a leap year on the 7th year. So that's the reason, not on the 7th year and not on the 8th year, because 8th year followed the year there was no food. So you don't extend the lack of food by one more month. Rabbi Zeira b'shem Rabbi Eliezer. Hada, what did you said, the Adamart, what did you said that you're not allowed to make a leap year on the 7th year and on the 8th year? עד שלא התיר רבי להביא ירק מחוץ לארץ. This is before Rabbi permitted bringing vegetables from חוץ לארץ to ארץ ישראל. Because we know שעפר של ארץ ישראל, גוש אדמה, a piece of dirt of ארץ העקום, of ארץ העמים, חוץ לארץ is מטמא. So up to Rabbi was a gzera that you're not allowed to bring any vegetables, any growth from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Israel, because you might going to be brought with the dirt and it will be metameh Eretz Israel. Rabbi made it gzera. Rabbi said that it's fine to bring any vegetables and grain from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Israel, and therefore there were no shortage of food. So after Rabbi permit that, then אבל משהתיר רבי להביא ירק מחוץ לארץ לארץ ישראל, when Rabbi permitted, היא שביעית, היא של שאר שני השבוע, the same thing the 7th year, the same thing any other year in the 7 years of Shvi'it. It is similar, because the only reason we don't make the Shvi'it leap year return because lack of food, and the following year as well. But when we have enough coming from Chutz La'aretz, you're allowed to make a leap year to any year. Tani, we said, אין מעברין את השנים. We said that we're not allowed to make a leap year on Shvi'it and Nisan. The Gemara is in Shvi'it and the 8th year. Amar Rabbi Mana, עד הדת אמרת, what did you say you don't make 7th and 8th year? Shvi'it, בראשונה, the beginning, שהיו השנים כתקננת. The years were on time, and in בית המקדש, and the land were by the control of Jews, and therefore, since we control all of the land, we control all of the food. When we have Shvi'it, we have no food. אבל עכשיו שאין השנים כתקנה, now we don't have the years properly. Unfortunately, we have no בית המקדש. Who owns the land? Goyim. Then you have enough food even in Eretz Israel from what's owned by Goyim. Therefore, Shvi'it היא שאר שני השבוע. Shvi'it is like the other years of the Shvi'it. תעני של בית רבן גמליאל היא ברורה במוציאי שביעית מיד. Therefore, by the house of Rabban Gamliel, after the destruction of בית המקדש, they made Shvi'it even the following year right away, because now everything is accessible, we have enough food, so you can make a leap year. But as far as I know, I don't think we have Shvi'it leap year. As far as I know. Okay. Omar Rabbi Baum, Rabbi Abun. So far we forgot. What was the whole purpose of this story of the Shvi'it? To prove you, if Chachamim made a leap year, they were poter for Maaser, for that month, adding it into the Shvi'it. So that's a proof that Chachamim has the power to be poter for Maaser. Amar Rabbi Abun says, En min hada, from this thing, let at shma mina klum. You don't listen anything, meaning you have no proof from this that Chachamim has the power to cancel Maaser for 1 month. Lama?
You don't allow them to.
The all power of Chachamim come from where? It says in the pasuk, Shamor et Chodesh Aviv. Watch that the month of Nisan would be in the spring. Shomreu sheyavi b'chidusho. You have to make sure that the Korban HaOmer will be brought on the right time on the spring. So when Chachamim are adding a month, they're not acting on their behalf. They're acting on the behalf of the Torah. So the Torah already said that you got to make sure it's going to be. So when they establish 1 more month, it's from the Torah. So you have no source that Chachamim has the power to cancel Maasrot. So we're going back to square one. How do we know Chachamim has the power to make afkir and will be no more Maaser? So where did he say? What do you have a proof that Chachamim can be poter from Maaser as well, just by the discretion of Chachamim? He says in the following, Gadi shelo lukat tachtav. Anyone who harvests his field, when things falls while you are at the speed, 1 or 2 aniyim can take it. 3 aniyim cannot take. So if aniyim didn't arrive yet to the harvesting, and he harvests the field and things fell, he has an obligation to wait for the aniyim to come and to collect the what fell. If he didn't wait and he went into the next process and he already bundled the wheat and it's on top of the wheat that really belonged to the aniyim, so they have no access anymore. Chachamim established that all of the bundles will belong to aniyim. That's how you prevent landowners from gathering on top of the aniyim stuff. Rather, the wall should erect it and put it on separate areas. So gadish shelo lukat tachtav, any field that the aniyim didn't collect what fell under it. כל הנוגות בארץ הרי של עניים. Anything that touch from the bottoms, the earth, is belong to עניים. What's above the earth does not belong to עניים. So everything attached to earth belong to עניים. This is what's making it הפקר, נכון? Because from the Torah it's owned by the landowner. It doesn't owned by the עניים. ואומר רבי עמי בשם, רבי עמי said by the name of רבי שמעון בן לקיש, the Bet Shammai, this opinion, it's only according to Bet Shammai. There is a מחלוקת whether הפקר לעניים, הפקר. According to Bet Shammai, if you מפקיר something to עניים, it's הפקר, you don't need to bring maaser. Because according to Beis Hillel, even if this is not considered as הפקר, and therefore will be chayav in maaser. So according to Bet Shammai, will be fully הפקר, and he's not going to be chayav in maaser. So he said the Bet Shammai, that's according to Bet Shammai. The Beis Hillel, עניים אוכלים ומעשרים. According to Beis Hillel, עניים will eat and will give מעשר. So he holds that only according to Beis, even though חכמים gave it to עניים, but it's not פטור for מעשר according to Beis Hillel, only according to Bet Shammai. ואמר לרבי יוסי, רבי יוסי told them, שמענו that this משנה, even if it's even like Bet Hillel, שמענו שהוא פטור ממעשר, דברי הכל, משום כנסה. We heard that it's even according to Bet Hillel, it's פטור ממעשר. למה? This is not regular הפקר. This is a fine that we gave the landowner. So that's a higher level of הפקר. So even Bet Hillel agreed that on such level, when חכמים gave a fine, that it's fully הפקר, and you don't need to give מעשר. אז זו state, you see here clear, that חכמים has the power to make something הפקר, and to be פוטרת for מעשר. תזכור שמה את